in the right way, or normally what we do, somebody will invent or discover something in the modern anatomy or modern science, then we go back to our shastras to find out whether it was explained by your acharyas or not. Correct? So we have to learn how to learn anatomy or how to learn our samhitas to understand Ayurveda better. So starting with the introduction, Sushruta Samhita, as you know, is one of the foundational textbooks in Ayurveda, and he is a revered surgeon and he is also called as the father of surgery. Recently, last month, his statue was unveiled in the Royal Surgeons University of Edinburgh, and he is famous for over numerous surgical procedures as well as close to 120 surgical instruments. And most of the early descriptions of the neurological conditions that we see today have been documented in Sushruta Samhita. However, it is scattered in Nidhanasthana as well as the Chikitsasthana and scattered in other chapters of the Sharira as well. So, what does this image take you to? When you see this image, most of the UG students, when they come to the first year, neuroanatomy is put in the last semester of your course. So by the time you reach the last sem, you have hardly 3 months of the course remaining, and all of you are very scared. Neuroanatomy, embryology was completed. Embryology and neuroanatomy are the two topics which we are very scared about. Ayurveda questions means I find it very easy, no problem. But embryology as well as neuroanatomy is something, even though modern, we all tend to run away from. So, is that required? Should you be scared of neuroanatomy? My answer is no. If you understand the basic concepts of neuroanatomy as to how the arrangement, neurological arrangement is in our body, then neuroanatomy becomes very easy. So, never approach neuroanatomy as an anatomy perspective. Always study it from a physiological perspective too. So when you are learning neuroanatomy, you study the neurophysiology as well. Then it becomes very easy. So just to speak about modern neuroanatomy and its organization. Nervous system is something that coordinates all our body functions. We have lot of cells, numerous cells in our body. The cellular level of organization, it gives rise to tissue level of organization. Then comes organic level, then comes the systemic level, and all these are coordinated together by one system, which is nervous system. And how does it coordinate? It coordinates with the help of one functional unit, which is called as a neuron. So every neuron has a cell body and processes. Like if we consider our head and the trunk as a cell body, it has my hands and legs will become its processes. Okay? So these processes are also very specific. Two types of processes we come across. One is the axon and the other is the dendrite. So axon is generally very long. So these long axons, it always carry impulses away from the cell body. Whereas the dendrites, which are tinier and smaller in length, they are multiple number. Okay, axons are single, but dendrites are multiple number and they carry the impulses towards the cell body. Now, if we look at the classification, the structural level of organization is central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. As the name suggests, central nervous system forms your central axis of your body. So, what would be the components? We have the brain as well as the spinal cord. So, brain and spinal cord forms the central nervous system, and all the nerves that are emerging from this central axis, it is going to form the component of peripheral nervous system. Now, again, functionally, we can see that this peripheral nervous system is divided into two types. One is the somatic, which is voluntary, and the other is autonomic, which is not in our control, that is involuntary. Then again, in autonomic nervous system, we have sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Another third point is there, which is enteric nervous system, which is generally localized in the GI. Okay, I am not going into the details of those. So here I have just included a image of the, just for you to understand, the first one is the central nervous system, and the second one forms the components of peripheral nervous system. Under the parasympathetic, we have the nerves emerging from cranial segments as well as the sacral segments. So it is called as craniosacral outflow. Whereas the sympathetic nervous system has the components in the thoracic and the lumbar segment. So we call them thoraco-lumbar outflow. Now coming to what we are going to discuss today, which is Sushruta Samhita. So I guess all of you here know that there are 10 chapters in Sushruta Samhita. Do you know the names of the chapters? So it starts from Sarvabhuta Chinta Sharira, wherein he explains about the philosophical background of our Sushruta. How we came into origin, the Prakriti, Avyakta, Mahat, Ahankara. Then he goes on to explain about the Purusha. So the first chapter forms a philosophical basis of our Shastra. Then comes Shukra, Shovanta Shuddhi, wherein he explains about the Shuddha Shukra, Shuddha Artha Lakshanas, etc. Third is the Garbha Avakranti. Garbha Avakranti is formation of the Garbha, then Masanumasika Garbha Vidhi. All those are explained in the third chapter. Then fourth explains about various structures in our body, like Kala, Vak. Then it is under this chapter he explains about the Avayava Utpatti and Nidra. Okay. Then comes Sharira Sankhya Vyakarana, where we are going to learn about the enumeration and types of various pictures like Peshi, Sandhi, Asti, Snayu. All those things are included in the fifth chapter. Sixth, the most important one, which is the Marma. It just explains about the Marma Sharira. 7th to 9th discusses about Sira, Dhamani and Srotas, or basically the circulatory channels in our body. And the last one, 10th one, is the Garbhini Vyakarana, which summarizes, that is how to take care of a pregnant lady, or what is the Sutika Gara, or after pregnancy what needs to be done. All those are discussed in the Garbhini Vyakarana. So if you see this arrangement, it starts with the philosophical origin, then goes on to embryology, then discusses about the gross anatomy of our body and the neurovascular arrangement, organization of our body, and in the end, the clinical application through Sira Vedana as well as Rotas and Marma Sharira. Now, when I spoke in the first slide, that is the organization of modern neuroanatomy, I told you there is a central nervous system, there is peripheral nervous system, there are nerves, there is a neuron. But in Ayurveda, we don't have any such description wherein I can tell you this is a neuron or this can be considered as a neuron. Instead, the functioning and the arrangement, neurological arrangement is spread across various components starting from Vata, all the 5 types of Vata. Then we have, under the concept of Sira, the explanation regarding Vata Mahasira to be precise, and then Avedya Siras. Then we have the component of Snayu, Dhamani, and in the end, Marma. So the neurological components in Sharira Sthana is scattered over all these components. I am concentrating only on the Sharira Sthana today. However, the practical aspect or the traumatic or the clinical aspect of this is better explained under the neurological conditions. Then he explains about Vata Vyadhi Nidana as well as Vata Vyadhi Chikitsa. So first we will see during embryological development or the intra-uterine life. In the third month, Tritiye, Hasta, Pada, Shirasam, Panchapindika, Sarva Anga Avayava, Sushmo Bhavati. So in the third month, there is a minute appearance of all the organs in our body and the buds are formed. Then coming to the fifth month, I will discuss about the fourth little more elaborately. In the fifth month is the Manas. So Ayurveda has always colluded between, when we talk about Manas, then Hridaya is also there, then Chetana or the Shiras is also there. So what to consider here, we have to see. Then Shashte Buddhi. So Manaha, Panchame Manaha, Shashte Buddhi. Then comes the wherein all the organs and body parts becomes pravyaktataraha, that is, it becomes well manifested. Why I was talking about the fourth month is, the third, from a neurological perspective, third and fourth month has immense importance. Why? Because if you consider the modern neuroanatomy, even though the nucleation as well as the motor cord develops early in the embryological development, the individual structures, that is the cerebrum, development of the cerebrum as well as the cerebellum and myelination, it begins by the third and fourth month. And in the third month, Tarpaka has considered the Daurudha Avastha, and in the fourth month, Sushruta has considered the Daurudha Avastha. This Daurudha Avastha, even though they coordinate it with the presence of two hearts, it is actually during this month that the myelination of the nerves begin. And if you see the Daurudha Vimana, or if the Daurudha are not fulfilled properly, if you see the conditions, it leads to Kubja, Puni, and as well as other Andhya, that is other visual impairments also. So it is not that, I am not trying to equate that Acharya Sushruta knew about the myelination or anything, but he has observed ample number of cases where he could say that if this is not done in this month, then it is going to affect the fetus in a particular way. Now, coming to the modern, CNS. When we talk about CNS, brain is the supreme. So, do we have something called as brain in Sushruta Samhita? We don't get brain. Instead, we have a term called as Mastulunga. But this term is mainly used in the Chikitsa as well as the Sutrasana, and he is explaining about the trauma, that is injuries. He says, Bhindini va Shiraha Kapale Yatra Mastulunga Darshana. When the Shira Kapala, you know that Kapala is present in the Shiras. So when the cranial bolt is injured or there is a traumatic injury involving the Shira Kapala, you can see Mastulunga. For that, Dalana gives a commentary. How does Mastulunga look? It is Ardha Vilina Dhritakara. So, if you have already done the craniotomy, you can try to correlate. When you burrow or if you don't remove the brain properly out, it all gets powdered, right? And it literally looks like a Ardha Vilina. It does not look like a completely molten heap, but there will be grainy appearance. And even in Chikitsa Sana, while explaining about the Shalya, he tells Shiraso Apurute Shalya. If it is not treated well, then through the injury, the Mastulunga will come out. Mastulunga Vrana Srave, that is the Vrana that has been caused due to the injury, Mastulunga will come out. Okay. Another important thing that we have to consider here when I speak about Mastulunga is the role of Tarpaka Kapha. This reference, again, it is not in Sharirasana, it is in the Sutrasana, wherein he says, Shiraskaha Sneha, Santarpana Adhipratatva, Indriyana, Atma Viryena Anugraham Karoti. So, in Shiras, inside the Shira Kapala, there is a Sneha which supports or which nourishes the Indriyas. And Dalana comments that Sneho Mastaka Majja Tasya Santarpanam. So this Sneha or this oily substance or liquid, it is nourishing the Mastaka Majja also. Now what is Mastaka Majja? What is Mastaka Majja? It is nothing but muscle. Got it? So in Sharirasana, this reference has another importance. In the Sharira 4th chapter, while explaining about the Nidra, the concept of Nidra, he explains different types of Nidra. There is Prakrita Nidra and there is Vaikrita or Vikararita Nidra is there. So he says when the Sanya Mahasrotas is obstructed by the tamas, he says Tarpaka Kapha is circulating throughout the Sanya Mahasrotas. When it, along with the tamas, it enters into the Sanyava Srotas, it causes Prakrita Nidra. And he continues saying that if a person is China, or the Nidra that comes out of China, Sleshvana, Anila Baulana, Mana Sharira Abhitapavatamcha, Kshina, that is weakness, or Manasharira Abhitapa, that is any stress or any hurtful nature of your mind, then that is not Prapta Nidra. It is considered as Vairita Nidra. So here, this concept, when I was going through this concept, I came across something called as the lymphatic system. Have you heard of lymphatics? Any of you can raise your hand. Have you heard about lymphatics? Very good. So this lymphatic system, it was discovered recently in 2012. What is, when we hear of the lymphatics, the word is derived from glial cells plus lymphatics. In our body we have lymphatic system, correct? What does the lymphatic system do? It helps in draining the larger molecules of the metabolites which cannot enter into the bloodstream. Correct? Because the blood vessels are tiny pores, whereas the lymphatic channels are larger pores, as a result of which the larger molecules after the cellular metabolism enter into the lymphatic system and it is brought back to the circulatory system. At the end of the day, the lymph also enters back into the heart. Correct? Correct? Does the lymph enter back into the heart? No? But yes, it is entering back into the heart. Okay? So here, the lymphatic system, until 2012, we were thinking that brain does not require any lymphatic drainage. But in 2012, they came across a mechanism wherein the glial cells around, that is the perivascular spaces and the extracellular spaces around the neurons.